Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev stresses the lack of political will of the international community to put pressure on aggressor Armenia during a discussion at the Munich conference. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev spoke about the main reasons for the lack of a resolution on the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict at the roundtable discussion titled "Outside Ukraine: Unresolved Conflicts in Europe" at the Munich conference. According to the Azerbaijani president, the key reason is the lack of political will of the international community to put pressure on the aggressor. First of all, the president stressed that the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict has begun to attract more international attention only in the last year, after the outbreak of the Ukrainian crisis. This tragic situation in Ukraine draws attention to other conflicts, protracted conflicts which have lasted for many years. In our case, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan has a history of more than 20 years. It started actually even before the collapse of the Soviet Union. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, it aggravated and it resulted in the occupation of internationally recognized territories of Azerbaijan. 20% of the territories are under occupation, and Nagorno-Karabakh, which is an historic part of Azerbaijan, is occupied as well. All Azerbaijanis have been expelled from Nagorno-Karabakh, and 7 districts, where 700,000 people live, are also occupied by Armenia. Everything is destroyed there, and we have been in the process of negotiations for more than 20 years without any result. The OSCE is dealing with that. The OSCE has a special group which is called the Minsk Group, co-chaired by 3 permanent members of the UN Security Council, and for more than 22 years now, this group has been active, but without any result. President Aliyev said, according to the president, there is a lack of international pressure on Armenia. What we see sometimes is that resolutions of the UN Security Council are implemented within days, if not hours. In our case, there are 4 resolutions of the Security Council of the United Nations adopted at the beginning of the 90s. None of them have been implemented. I think the lack of political will on behalf of the mediators to impose adequate pressure on the aggressor is the real final result of what we have today. Because Armenia is a largely dependent country, this country is not self-sufficient. They cannot develop, and even their statehood is under question. Without external support for Armenia, they cannot function, and they get external support mainly from the countries which are co-chairs of the Minsk Group, and this is a paradox. And we see here double standards, and that is what causes disappointment. And I'd like to say that all the conflicts in the post-Soviet area must be treated from the same angle. The territorial integrity of Azerbaijan has the same value as the territorial integrity of Ukraine, which is now what everyone is talking about. The president explained, if you want to resolve the conflict, then my message to you is stop shooting. President Ilham Aliyev said that such is the tactics of the Armenian side, always to blame Azerbaijan. Armenia has occupied our territory, violated international law, committed genocide in Khojaly, destroyed our historical and religious monuments, but it shifts the blame to us. The question is, what are Armenian soldiers doing in the occupied territories? What have Armenian soldiers forgotten in Aghdam? If they do not want to be killed, then they shouldn't go to Aghdam. Let them stay in their Yerevan, Gyumri, in their own country. You have enough space for yourselves in the country. There are in fact not so many people left. So what are you doing in Aghdam? What are you doing in Fizuli? The president of Azerbaijan asked. As an example, he spoke about the events of the past year. The year 2014 was generally remarkable in terms of the activity of the intermediaries in the negotiations. President Putin organized a meeting between President Sargsyan and me in August. In September, Secretary of State John Kerry organized a round of negotiations. Finally, at the end of October, President Hollande invited us to Paris, where we had, I would say, an excellent, very constructive meeting. Both parties then stated that they considered this meeting a great success and will try to reduce tension on the front line. What happened then? After less than 10 days, Armenia began military exercises in the occupied territories, particularly in Agdam, with the participation, according to the Armenian media, of 47,000 soldiers. They organized maneuvers in the occupied territory with the use of military equipment, aircraft and helicopters. For 3 days, our army remained patient enough not to respond, but then Armenia, with the help of its Mi-24 helicopters, attacked Azerbaijan's positions. Our army had to respond and one of the helicopters was shot down. For Armenia, it was an occasion to accuse Azerbaijan. With this provocation, it showed disrespect to the leaders of France, Russia and the United States that have made so much effort to reduce tensions. Armenia thinks it can do anything, and no one will punish it. This is the main reason behind Armenia's behavior, President Aliyev said. Now they are blaming us, saying, "Do not shoot." So my message to Armenia is, end the occupation, he said. At the same time, President Aliyev drew attention to the existing possibility of settling the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and achieving reconciliation. Those who committed crimes during war, such as the tragedy in Khojaly, should at least apologize and admit them, so that they are not repeated. If this happens, I'm convinced that sooner or later, peace will be established and our nations will live peacefully together. This is possible because we have lived before as neighbors, we had a lot of mixed marriages, and there was no animosity. 200,000 Armenians lived in Baku, and today, in the center of the city, we have a renovated Armenian church. At the same time, Azerbaijani mosques in Shusha and Agdam were completely destroyed. Yes, all of this should not have taken place, but now they have to admit that it was a mistake, apologize, and then we will, of course, establish peace, the president said.
OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs met with OSCE chairperson Ivica Dasic and Organization Secretary General Lamberto Zanier and discussed the Armenian-Azerbaijani Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. The sides emphasized the need to reduce tensions on the contact line of Armenian and Azerbaijani armies. We all agree that the military situation along the line of contact and Armenian-Azerbaijani border is deteriorating, posing a threat to regional stability and endangering the lives of civilians. The 12 casualties and 18 wounded cited by Ambassador Kasper Schick's monitoring reports in January represent the highest confirmed number of victims in the first month of a year since the 1994 ceasefire agreement. After 2014, in which approximately 60 people lost their lives, we are alarmed that this disturbing violent trend has continued. The statement says that there is no military solution to the conflict and the sides must cease using force. We call on the sides to end incursions, cease targeting villages and civilians, stop the threat of reprisals and the use of asymmetric force, and take additional steps to reduce tensions and strengthen the ceasefire. We find it unacceptable that the security guarantees are not fully observed during OSCE monitoring exercises. Additionally, we reaffirm the December 4, 2014 joint statement of the heads of delegation of the co-chair countries at the Basel Ministerial Council, calling on the sides to settle humanitarian issues, including the return of bodies and prisoners, in the spirit of the Astrakhan Statement of October 2010. The Minsk Group co-chairs, with the full support of the chairperson in office, are prepared to host an intensified negotiation process that can bring to a peaceful end a conflict that has scarred the region for too long. The statement concluded. The Khojaly tragedy is the first worst war crime in Europe since World War II, according to the article published in the Middletown Press. The author urged the U.S. to recognize the Khojaly tragedy, which took the lives of over 600 people, including over 100 women and over 60 children. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Associated Press, and others confirmed the fact that the Armenian forces were responsible for this tragedy, said the article. Armenian Field Commander Monte Melkonyan provided a shocking witness account of the Khojaly killing fields in his diary, said the author. Additionally, Armenia's incumbent president Serge Sarkisyan admitted that his forces acted in revenge to break the stereotype of Azerbaijanis, said the article. Yet the Armenian government and the Armenian special interest groups continue to deny these facts. As the U.S. mediates a peaceful settlement of the Armenia-Azerbaijani conflict, our recognition of its largest atrocity is a key to healing and reconciliation, said the author. According to the article, in recent years, the states of Massachusetts, Texas, Georgia, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, West Virginia, Florida, and Connecticut recognize the Khojaly tragedy. I request that our elected officials once more recognize the victims of this horrific act of ethnic cleansing ahead of its anniversary, said the author. As a result of the Khojaly massacre, some 613 people were killed, including 63 children, 106 women, and 7 old people. 8 families were totally exterminated, 130 children lost one parent, and 25 children lost both. A total of 487 civilians became disabled as a result of the onslaught. Some 1,275 innocent residents were taken hostage, while the fate of 150 people remains unknown. The members of the Los Angeles-based Sinai Temple, which is one of the largest and most influential religious centers of American Jewry, donated a Sefer Torah to the mountainous Jewish community of Azerbaijan. Exquisitely prepared in Israel, the Sefer Torah was presented at a special ceremony held at the Sinai Temple. Over 400 members of Los Angeles Jewish community attended the ceremony. Consul General of Azerbaijan Nassim Agaev informed the participants about Azerbaijan's long-standing traditions of tolerance and inclusion. The Consul General also stressed the importance of the comprehensive relationship and strong friendship between Azerbaijan and Israel. Speaking about the illegal occupation and ethnic cleansing of Azerbaijan's lands by Armenia, Consul General Agaev stressed the significance of Israel's constant support for Azerbaijan's territorial integrity. In this regard, Agaev also expressed the gratitude and appreciation for Israeli President Rivlin's reference to the 1992 Khojaly massacre in his recent UN speech on the occasion of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. In his remarks, Consul General of Israel David Shigel called the environment of tolerance and the interface harmony that Azerbaijan has been able to establish and foster a great model for the entire world. He also highlighted the strategic nature of Azerbaijani-Israeli partnership. Following the remarks, Rabbi David Wolpe of the Sinai Temple, who is regarded as the most influential rabbi in the U.S., presented the Sefer Torah to the mountainous Jewish community of Azerbaijan.
The Star Refinery of the State Oil Company of the Azerbaijan Republic will be commissioned in late 2017, according to a message posted on the official website of SOCAR. It was reported earlier that the plant would be put into operation in the first quarter of 2018. According to the message, the commissioning of the Star Refinery in late 2017 will allow reducing Turkey's current account deficit at least by $2.5 billion. The total cost of the project is $5.7 billion, and some $3.29 billion of this amount will be provided with loans. SOCAR signed loan agreements totaling $3.29 billion with 23 financial institutions in Istanbul on June 6 as part of constructing the Star Refinery in Turkey. The loan package consists of the funds of export and import banks, 16 foreign trade and investment banks, as well as 1 local bank.
The service life of Azerbaijan's first telecom satellite, Azerspace Africasat 1A, in the orbit was extended to 17 years, according to a message from Azercosmos or GSC, a satellite operator of Azerbaijan. Earlier, the spacecraft's manufacturer, the US-based Orbital Sciences Corporation, indicated in the documents about the satellite's technical parameters that its operation period in orbit would be 15 years. Thanks to the successful launch and effective management of the satellite over the past 2 years, the previously planned operation period was extended to 16.7 years, the message read. Azerspace Africasat 1A was launched from the Ila-3 launch complex of the Giana Space Center on February 8, 2013, on the Ariane 5 Echo carrier rocket of the French company Arianespace. Currently, experts of the Azercosmos or GSC from the main and backup control centers control the satellite. The service area of the Azerspace Africasat 1A covers the countries in Europe, the Caucasus, Central Asia, Middle East, and Africa. Azerbaijan's telecommunications satellite Azerspace Africasat 1A is designed to render the digital broadcasting, internet access, and data transmission services, as well as the creation of VCAT multi-service networks and the provision of government communications.
Azerbaijan could support new initiatives as part of the Trasica Transport Cooperation Program after they prove their efficiency. Trasica National Secretary in Azerbaijan, Akif Mustafayev, has said. Mustafayev said 2 of 3 proposed initiatives were passed as part of another conference of the Trasica Intergovernmental Commission in Istanbul in late January. In particular, a number of countries signed a technical annex on cooperation in the maritime transport sector, in the Black and Caspian Seas, and the technical document for the issuance of multiple permits within Trasica. Mustafayev said that Azerbaijan did not sign any of these documents. He also said that Trasica participants did not support the initiative of establishing the Court of Arbitration, which needs to be improved. Though we have not supported these initiatives at this stage, this does not mean that Azerbaijan will not join them. He said, this is possible, but only after the initiatives prove to be effective. Trasica is an international transport cooperation program between the EU and the partner countries in Eastern Europe, South Caucasus, and Central Asia. The organization has a permanent secretariat based in Baku. The participating countries of Trasica are Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, Moldova, Romania, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Turkey, Ukraine, and Iran.
Atletico de Madrid will wear the logo of Baku 2015, their first European Games, in the derby against Real Madrid and the Champions League matches. In the field of strategic sponsorship with Azerbaijan, Atletico de Madrid has always wanted to share the most significant historical moments of this country, as well as the main events and milestones it has faced, fulfilling the commitment to drive its growth process. In this sense, the T-shirt has been a unique tool to promote the virtues of the country, as well as to project actions and messages at an international level, as was the case in November of 2013, when, coinciding with the official launch of the logo of the first Baku 2015 European Games, the club wore the design of this event on its shirt, bearing the name of Baku to all the corners of the world. Team will wear the logo of Baku 2015 in Madrid's derby, one of the most important and anticipated football stages of the year, and during a series of additional matches of the Spanish League. And on this occasion, it will do so too in European competition, taking advantage of the great media exposure of the most prestigious competition of clubs in the world, as is the Champions League.